Are you interested in living for free? In this video, I'm gonna give you 2 strategies that you can use to live basically for free with rent hacking. This is part 2 of my money saving series where I go into different strategies that you can use to cut down on our 3 largest expenses, which is typically transportation, food, and housing expenses. So in this video, I'm gonna show you 2 different tips that you can use to cut back on your housing expenses. What's up, you guys? It's Josh Tavares from TNR Wealth Strategies, certified legacy real estate investment advisor, all things personal finance and real estate investing. Remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and even jiggle the notification bell so you can get updates on our new content. Are you interested in living for free? If so, after watching this video, you're going to be equipped with 2 different strategies that you can use to live for free in the form of rent hacking. Many personal finance professionals have used this to cut down expenses and get closer, if not have already achieved, financial independence through this and many other means. Let's start this off by going into the owner category. This is essentially owning a multifamily property, renting it out to other people, and having them pay you rent and covering most, if not all, your living expenses associated with your property. Of course, the goal with this strategy is to acquire enough rent from all the units to cover all your expenses, and not only cover all your expenses, but also hope to cash flow. So if you can cash flow $5, $10, $100, $200, $300, that's awesome money in your bank account or even your pocket that you can use to pay down your mortgage or finance your lifestyle in many ways. If done correctly, you can live for free and generate a profit. Not bad. Or you can purchase a single family property in which you can have multiple bedrooms that you don't really need, rent them out to other people, and charge them market rent. To maximize your cash flow, you want to live in the least desirable unit, rent out the more desirable units out to tenants, and have them cover the costs. By doing this, you're generating more revenue, more cash flow, which you can use to finance your lifestyle or even pay down your debts. Depending on the market that you're in, you may be able to add utilities onto their bill. So they could be paying something like $500 per room or $1,500 per unit and actually have them pay for gas, water, electricity, either pay for all of them or some of them, depending on the market. If you're going down this route, you're gonna have to make sure you vet the tenants, make sure they say they're who they are, do what they say they do for occupational sake, and have good quality references. And you wanna make sure that you have a legal lease based on the state or province or city that you're in. I highly recommend that you speak to a lawyer and make sure that your lease is legal and has no illegal provisions inside that agreement. Do keep in mind with this strategy that maintenance does not come from the tenant. So typically if something's gonna happen with the unit, it's gonna come out of your cash flow. And there perhaps maybe some months where something a little bit larger in maintenance may actually come out of your pocket, but that's totally fine, because if you're living for free in most months, it's totally cool to take out of your pocket an extra $200-300 to pay a contractor for an issue if you're most of the time generating cash flow or paying off. Trust me, this strategy is totally realistic and doable. Let's say you purchase a property for $200,000, a single family property. You can put down as low as 5% down on the property and have the costs associated also for closing fees, which is typically 1 to 2%, of course, depending on the closing fees associated with your region. A lot of that having to do with your land transfer taxes. Let's say that your mortgage is $1,500, the utilities associated are about $350, your property tax is $200, and your property insurance is $140. These costs are all assumed monthly. Let's say this property is a triplex and the 2 more desirable units are rented out to tenants while you're in the least of the desirable units. Let's also say that each unit is going for about $1,200, the first floor, second floor perhaps, and we'll say that you're on the 3rd floor. With the numbers associated, you'd be cash flowing $210 a month, not including vacancy or maintenance. Apart from your down payment and your closing fees, you're essentially living for free. Think of it this way, you've just freed up 30% of your housing expenses. You can now take those funds, invest it to other means, save it up perhaps into another property, an actual rental property where the full property is being rented out by different units, continue to build your net worth, continue to build wealth, revenue, and eventually, if you do this enough strategically, you'll be able to quit your job and be able to work on other projects and live the lifestyle that you deserve. So comment down below if you're doing this already or you're interested in implementing this strategy. So if you're thinking of doing so, comment down below. Now our second strategy is the renting version. Don't worry, for those of you renting, I didn't forget about you, and you can also live for free. This strategy is completely realistic and doable. However, you'll have to be a little bit more responsible in collecting rents, and chances are have your name associated fully responsibly for the unit on title with a lease. With this strategy, you want to live into a fairly big house with multiple rooms that you don't need. And once again, as mentioned earlier, live in the least desirable of the rooms and rent out the more desirable ones. And of course, have the other tenants pay for your living expenses. A great idea would get into a big house with about 5 bedrooms, charge each room from $400 to $500 per month. Of course, it has to be on the market standards, right? And with those numbers justified, you should be able to not only pay all the rent, but be able to cover all of those expenses and even generate some cash flow in your pocket. This may be easier to do with some other tenants who are not your friends and be able to justify, hey, I'm taking on my name solely on this property. I have more responsibility in making sure that the payments get done on time and have direct contact with the landlord or property management company. Therefore, that's why I'm not necessarily paying any rent and you guys are, and coordinating the whole thing. And remember too, this strategy can also work for some of your friends and family members as well. Chances are this is happening in your neighborhood, perhaps across the street, maybe even next door. If you're willing to live with other people, you can live for free, save so much of your income, be able to invest it, and be financially free in such a shorter time span than the average. Let's say the place you're living in is a 4-bedroom. You're charging $400 per month on rent for all the other tenants, and the rent every month is $1,500. Right there, you've just cut 30% of your expenses, all within renting everything else out to the other tenants. There you go. You now have 30% of your income wiped out that you can save and invest, as I mentioned earlier, thanks to the other tenants. However, do remember that you need to be totally responsible, make sure the rent's paid on time. You also definitely want to make sure that this house hacking strategy is legal and that you can't, based on the state or the province or the city you're in, can't get evicted. So do keep in mind that you want to do some research in your landlord tenant board and similar associations to make sure what you're doing is correct and not negligent. I know living with other tenants is not the most ideal situation. You might have to deal with some sticky situations where other people might be taking some of your stuff or eating your food or whatnot, or they might not always, get along collectively. But if you can stay disciplined and you can stay patient and save a lot of this income, you can easily purchase your own property if you personally can't, or go about investing into a rental property while continuing the strategy, having that totally rented off, cash flowing, and eventually down the road, rinse and repeat that method and continue to pay very low living expenses and save and invest and just build your net worth. As a millennial, it's so easy to get caught up with prior generations were able to do at your age, whether it being in your your 20s or your early 30s. It's very easy to get caught up in that and say, well, my parents at this age owned a house, were married, had 2 kids. That was a totally different time. Just do keep in mind that wages were stagnant, properties were relatively cheap, and it was much easier to possibly have one parent work, have a very high income, and have the other one stay at home, take care of the family, or work part-time. It's a lot harder these days. So these are the type of strategies you're gonna have to implement in order to get ahead of the curve. So remember, if you're willing to think different and implement strategies as such, you'll be able to get ahead of the curve and be one of those few millennials that down the road, you'll be able to retire early while your friends envy you because they followed the same strategy as the prior generation. There you have it, 2 strategies that you can use to live for free. Question though, are you following these strategies that you could use to retire early? I've created a video on some savings hacks that you can use to retire early. So click down below in the description. I provided a link, so watch that video. Also, if you want to join a community of like-minded investors, join our Facebook page at TNR Wealth Strategies. I post real estate investing and personal finance-based content. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and even jiggle the notification bell so you can get updates on our new uploaded content. Want to learn more about personal finance and real estate investing? Click up here or down here.